What Bella's saying there is that the way we think about ourselves in modern society, the normative notion of the self, is one where our inner feelings are critical to our identity, critical to who we are. And our ability to express those inner feelings is therefore essential to what we might dub our social authenticity. You might say, well, isn't that rather obvious? I would respond, well, it is today, but of course that has not been the way that people have always thought about themselves. Use an example. I use this example in my book. I draw a contrast between myself and my grandfather. And I say, if you'd ask my grandfather, he was a working class factory man, union member from the industrial heartland, the Midlands of England. If you'd ask my grandfather if, as a sheet metal worker, he'd had job satisfaction, I think, first of all, he'd be confused by the question. The very idea of job satisfaction as we can understand it in our contemporary world would have been an alien concept to him. But if we'd explained to him, do you find your work worthwhile? I think his answer would have run along these kind of lines. Yeah, I find my work worthwhile because I get paid a fair day's wage for an honest day's work. I'm able to put shoes on my children's feet and bread, meat and potatoes on the family table. I'm able to meet my obligations to other people. Now, if you ask me the same question, Truman, do you get job satisfaction? I'm intuitively going to respond in a somewhat different way. I'm likely to respond and say, yeah, I find teaching young people great. I love it when I'm in class and there's some back and forth. When I'm trying to explain a complicated idea, suddenly I see light bulbs going on in students' eyes as something they've not understood before becomes clear to them. Notice the difference in our two answers there. My grandfather's answer is very much connected to the obligations, the relationships of obligation that he has to other people. My answer is really grounded in the psychological satisfaction, the feeling that I get from doing the work I do. I might return now to the point I started the lecture with and say, I'm an expressive individual. It's my inner core of feelings that are the most important thing about me, in a way that my grandfather was not. How he felt about his work, if that counted at all, only counted to the extent that it connected to the external obligations that he fulfilled to other people. My grandfather was who he was because he had a relationship of responsibility towards others. I am who I am because I feel in a certain way. Now, when you think about that in terms of our contemporary social context, it has some fairly dramatic and extreme forms. Think of the trans moment which we're facing. When somebody says, I'm a woman trapped in a man's body, that would have been regarded by my grandfather, I think, as complete nonsense just 25, 30 years ago. But now, of course, not only is it commonly accepted, it's moving into the realms of a political and social orthodoxy to which one must conform, with which one must agree in order to be a member of civil society. But think about it. I'm a woman trapped in a man's body prioritizes inner feelings and the ability to express those inner feelings outwardly as lying at the heart of what it means to be an authentic person. Perhaps in a less extreme example, we could think about people describing themselves as I'm lesbian, or I'm gay, I'm bi, or I'm straight. Think about that. Those are identities rooted in desire, in inner desires. They're not even rooted in action or activity. The parent whose child comes to them and says, Dad, I think I'm gay, knows that the child may not be making a statement about any sexual activity in which they've engaged, but is making a statement really about the inner desire they feel. That we routinely now identify ourselves by our sexual desires, again, points to the importance, the priority we now place on inner feelings, which Robert Bellah points to in his definition of expressive individualism.